Most people don't destroy your life with violence, they do it with proximity. They enter quietly, earn access slowly, and rot your judgment from the inside. By the time you realize something is wrong, your confidence is fractured, your decisions are compromised, and your instincts no longer feel like your own. Machiavelli understood this danger long before modern psychology gave it polite labels. He knew that the most dangerous enemies are not those who oppose you openly, but those whose personalities are structurally incompatible with power, loyalty, and stability. This is not about toxic people in the childish, overused sense. This is about personality architectures that inevitably turn relationships into traps. These personalities do not need bad intentions to cause destruction. Their nature is enough. They bend environments, manipulate emotional gravity, and distort perception simply by existing near you. They do not attack directly. They corrode, slowly, strategically, invisibly. The modern mistake is believing that intelligence, empathy, patience, or communication can neutralize these types. That belief is naive. Machiavellian psychology is not concerned with fixing people. It is concerned with identifying threats early and withdrawing without explanation. Survival, dominance, and long-term positioning require emotional selectivity. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world, your plans, or your attention. These three personality types share one common trait. They are incompatible with authority, clarity, and upward movement. They drain energy, hijack focus, and rewrite narratives until you are reacting instead of acting. You do not confront them. You do not expose them. You do not try to win. You leave. Quietly. Completely. Without closure. If you ignore these signs, you won't just lose time. You'll lose leverage. You'll lose composure. And eventually, you'll lose yourself while believing you are being understanding. Machiavelli would not warn you twice. These are the three personality types you must run from. Not later, not emotionally, but strategically and immediately. Personality type 1. The moral leech. This personality never attacks your power directly. That would expose them. Instead, they wrap themselves in morality, principles, and emotional rightness, then slowly feed on your certainty. The moral leech survives by positioning themselves as ethically superior while remaining strategically powerless. They don't compete with you, they judge you. And judgment, when tolerated, becomes control. At first, they seem harmless, thoughtful, sensitive, deeply aware. They speak in the language of fairness, accountability, and emotional responsibility. But pay attention to the imbalance. Every mistake you make becomes a character flaw. Every boundary you set becomes cold. Every decisive action you take becomes problematic. Meanwhile, their own weaknesses are reframed as depth, trauma, or complexity. This asymmetry is deliberate. It conditions you to doubt your instincts while validating their inertia. The moral leech cannot create momentum, so they sabotage yours. They subtly shame ambition. They question your motives. They inject hesitation into moments that require speed and certainty. Over time, you begin to self-edit. You explain yourself more. You soften language. You delay decisions. This is the real extraction point. They are not feeding on your kindness. They are feeding on your clarity. Machiavellian danger emerges when morality is weaponized by those who lack power. A person who cannot act decisively will always resent those who can. But instead of open hostility, the moral leech uses emotional accounting. They keep an invisible score. They remind you of past missteps. They anchor you to guilt. Their goal is not justice, it is leverage. Once you feel morally inferior, they feel safe. This type thrives in prolonged proximity. The longer they stay close, the more your internal authority erodes. You begin to seek their approval without realizing it. You adjust behavior to avoid their disappointment. That is the moment you've lost dominance. Not because they overpowered you, but because you granted them veto power over your self-perception. You cannot reason with this personality. Debate feeds them. Reassurance feeds them. Transparency feeds them. They interpret every explanation as evidence of weakness. The only winning move is absence. Strategic withdrawal without justification. No arguments. No closure. No moral defense. Machiavelli would recognize this instantly. Anyone who needs to feel morally above you will eventually need to see you beneath them. Personality type 2. The emotional saboteur. This personality does not challenge you with logic, morality, or competition. They attack something far more fragile, your emotional equilibrium. The emotional saboteur is unstable by design, and instability is their primary weapon. They bring chaos disguised as authenticity, volatility disguised as passion, and unpredictability disguised as depth. Around them, nothing ever settles, and that is intentional. In the beginning, they feel intense, magnetic, alive. They overshare early, mirror your vulnerabilities, and create a false sense of emotional intimacy. This is not a connection, it is emotional acceleration. They rush closeness because distance would expose them. Stability would bore them. Clarity would threaten them. So they manufacture emotional noise to keep you reactive instead of observant. Their defining trait is inconsistency. One day they admire you, the next they withdraw. One moment they seek reassurance, the next they punish you for giving it. This push-pull dynamic is not accidental. It forces you into a constant state of emotional calibration, watching tone, adjusting behavior, anticipating mood shifts. Slowly, your focus turns outward. You stop acting from intention and start acting from emotional damage control. Machiavellian danger lies in how this erodes strategic thinking. A mind consumed by emotional turbulence cannot plan, cannot assess risk, cannot maintain dominance. The emotional saboteur thrives when you are slightly off balance. They provoke reactions, then frame your reactions as the problem. They destabilize first, then accuse you of instability. This reversal keeps you defending instead of observing. They also fear silence. Silence gives you clarity. Silence exposes patterns. So they fill space with drama, urgency, and unresolved tension. Every calm moment must be interrupted. Every boundary must be tested emotionally, not intellectually. When you try to disengage, they escalate. When you stay calm, they accuse you of coldness. When you assert control, they collapse or explode, forcing you to manage their emotions. You cannot stabilize this personality. They don't want peace. Peace removes their relevance. Their identity is built on emotional impact. If you are not reacting, they feel invisible. And invisible to them means powerless. The cost of staying is subtle but catastrophic. You lose emotional efficiency. You become predictable. Your attention narrows. Your decision-making weakens. Not because you are weak, but because you are constantly interrupted internally. Machiavelli would never attempt to fix chaos. He would step away before chaos rewrites his rhythm. With this personality, the rule is simple. If your nervous system never rests around someone, they are not intense. They are dangerous. Personality type 3, the silent competitor. This is the most dangerous type because they do not look dangerous at all. They are calm, agreeable, supportive on the surface. They listen more than they speak, praise you subtly, and never openly challenge your position. That is precisely why they are lethal. The silent competitor is not fighting you in public. They are studying you in private. This personality is defined by suppressed rivalry. They admire your position, your confidence, your trajectory. But admiration is not respect, it is measurement. They compare constantly, but reveal nothing. Every conversation becomes data extraction. Your doubts, ambitions, fears, and future plans are quietly stored, not to help you, but to understand how you move. They don't need to outperform you immediately. They need to outlast you. Unlike obvious rivals, the silent competitor avoids conflict. Conflict would reveal intent. Instead, they align themselves near you, benefiting from proximity while maintaining plausible loyalty. They agree with your ideas publicly, but subtly distort them privately. They echo your language, adopt your frameworks, and slowly position themselves as a reasonable alternative to you in the eyes of others. By the time you notice, the narrative has already shifted. Their weapon is patience. They wait for moments of weakness, fatigue, emotional exposure, temporary failure. They never attack when you are strong. They move when you are distracted. When you stumble, they don't push you. They step slightly ahead and let gravity do the rest. To outsiders, it looks natural, deserved, unplanned. That is the brilliance of it. Machiavellian psychology identifies this type as the hidden usurper, someone who does not need your destruction, only your replacement. They don't want to beat you directly. They want to be chosen over you. And because they never openly oppose you, you hesitate to cut them off. You rationalize. You delay. That delay is their advantage. The silent competitor also thrives on selective disclosure. They tell you nothing meaningful about themselves while encouraging you to be open. This creates a symmetry. You become transparent. They remain opaque. Power always flows toward opacity. The less known person controls the frame. The moment you realize you don't truly know them, they already know too much about you. You cannot confront this personality without losing. Confrontation exposes insecurity. Accusations make you look paranoid. They rely on your hesitation to act without proof. That is why Machiavelli's solution is not exposure. It is distance. You reduce access. You limit information. You remove them from your inner circle without explanation. Because once a silent competitor senses you as an obstacle instead of an asset, loyalty becomes optional. And by then, escape becomes expensive. By the time most people realize who damaged them, the damage is already internal. Confidence softened. Judgment delayed. Instincts overridden by habit and emotional residue. That is the true victory of dangerous personalities. They don't need to defeat you openly. They only need to stay close long enough for you to lose precision. Machiavelli never believed in fixing people, redeeming personalities, or winning emotional wars. He believed in positioning, in access control, in understanding that power is preserved not by confrontation, but by selective absence. The mistake is thinking that time will reveal people before cost is incurred. In reality, cost comes first. Revelation comes later. When you identify these personalities, do not explain your withdrawal. Explanation invites negotiation. Negotiation invites manipulation. Silence denies them narrative power. Distance denies them leverage. Your life improves not because they were evil, but because they were structurally incompatible with authority and clarity. Remember this rule above all others. Anyone who destabilizes your perception, drains your focus, or studies you without revealing themselves is not neutral. They are positioning. And in Machiavellian reality, the first person to reposition without announcement usually survives with advantage. Leave early. Leave clean. Leave unnoticed. That is how power stays intact.